Today we have a very special edition of the Crop Report. I'm joined today by John Locke, a local farmer just outside of Macklin. He's going to tell us a little bit about the crops in Lloydminster and area and how they were this year for the harvest season. And so thank you so much for being with me today, John.
No problem, Thomas. Happy to be here.
And to start, how was the moisture for your guys' crops?
Yeah, we started out this year almost on the verge of, are we looking at another drought this year? What's going to go on? And when seeding started in April and May, boy, everybody was blessed with some good moisture right off the hop, and crops could not have looked better right off the start. Coming in through May and June, same thing, lots of rain, looking good, and then the tap shut off in July, and boy, did it get hot and dry real quick. I really feel like there was a lot of yield that was left out on the table this year because of that heat and how dry of the conditions it was in April, in July and the beginning part of August.
And so you just finished up harvest. How was harvest this year with both a mixture of very hot weather and a little bit of moisture as well? And how were each of your crops for yields this year?
Yeah, we finished up probably about 10 days ago now. Yields were, for the most part, across the board, not terrible. Um, they have been worse. The yield potential was really there for a really big one this year. But that hot, dry weather really, we left a lot of bushels out there with the potential that was there. There was a tremendous amount of straw and big crops out there, but not a whole lot in place of the seed. That's for sure. Our best crops probably this year were ended up being our oats. Our barley wasn't bad either. A lot of the early seeded crops, like our peas and lentils, both came off in pretty good shape. Our wheat and our canola really struggled between and the heat in July during the blooming of the canola, and then the hot, windy conditions here during harvest. There was quite a lot of shatter resistant crops out there this year that seemed like it didn't really matter which variety that you used. There was quite a bit of pod shatter across most of the varieties that was out there in this area.
And then you guys also have quite a few head of cattle. How were the pasture conditions this year, as well as how were your hay crops?
Yeah, our hay crops came off for the most part, I'd say pretty decent. Um, we'd be average, maybe above average, and same thing. The early rains there in April and May really set the hay crop up for success this year. And on the side of the pastures, they look really good all year. Even through that July heat and into August, it was starting to brown off a little bit. September, we've been blessed with quite a few rains in our local area for sure. We're over 5 inches of rain in September. Um, the pastures held on very good, and with this really late into the season without any frost, the pastures have held on beautifully. We're going to be fine for feed this year for sure, with the hay crop and the silage coming off in pretty good shape as well.
And what is the early outlook for next year's growing season, especially after another dry year and previous years being nearly drought-like conditions?
Yeah, after the last couple of years of near drought conditions or in drought conditions in many parts, um, everybody needs rain this fall. Everybody's going to need snow cover, whether they want to admit it or not. We need the snow in the winter, so to fill up dugouts and to raise that soil moisture back up to a level where we can grow these big crops and have good pasture and good hay crops for the cattle side of things too. So I think we're going into fall a lot better this year than we have had many other years in the past. The last few years, an example, there hasn't been a whole lot of moisture whatsoever coming in the fall. So I think for the most part, we're looking pretty decent coming into the fall and into the winter as well. And if we get a good snow cover, I think next year is going to be a real good one.
Thank you so much for all the information today, John, and we definitely look forward to seeing a little bit more moisture for next year's growing season.